Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, and this is our Post Geek Out reaction to Flash Season 2. I know you might be asking, hey, didn't that happen like a week ago? Why are you doing it now? Funny story, I actually did already record a Post Geek Out reaction for that episode and the entirety of Season 2, but the video was corrupted. And for anybody out there who does stuff like this and records themselves and does YouTube type stuff, you guys can back me up on this. There is nothing quite so depressing as recording something, spending like an hour on, and then you look at it and it's all just kind of a jumbled mess. Yeah, it kind of is a bit of a downer. So I was like, I don't feel like going and just re-recording all the stuff I just said already. Maybe I just won't do it this time around. But you guys have been asking for it. You guys have actually left me multiple comments on Twitter, Tumblr, and on the YouTube videos. I am already unable to speak. This video is not going to go well, but you guys have actually left me many comments saying, hey, when are you going to talk about Flash Season 2? So, you know what? For you guys, I'm going to do this again. And I'm actually kind of glad that I didn't keep that first video, because after a week to think about it, I have some new thoughts. And let me just say, for anybody out there who doesn't know, the Post Geek Out reactions, they're not reviews. They're just my honest thoughts about the thing that I just watched, and that includes spoilers. And if you're wondering why am I doing a Post Geek Out reaction and not a review of The Flash, it's because on my reviews, I don't go into spoilers. And here's the thing. There is a lot that I liked about Flash Season 2. There is a ton that I really enjoyed this season. But there's also some stuff that I had problems with, and all the stuff that I had problems with were spoiler things, and I don't know how I could talk about them without actually spoiling them. So I'm not going to do a review of it. I'm just going to do a full-on Post Geek Out reaction. So here we go. Okay, let's start with the good. I love that the Flash TV show is embracing the fact that it is a comic book TV show. I love that this is a show that is not in any way afraid to fully adapt and embrace all the stuff that worked from the comics. And the fact that this season was all about Earth 2 was amazing to me. I love that so much because they didn't back away from it. They weren't like, oh, it's some weird parallel world. Let's, mention it once and then that's it. It's like, no, that was the theme this entire season. I'll admit, it started to get a little bit old at points, having every single week a new villain came through the portal to come and fight them. I wanted to see a little bit more of the villains that we had already met, develop them a little bit more, but your main villain from this show is currently fighting in the future on Legends of Tomorrow, so I can understand why they didn't play that big of a part. But yeah, it got to that point in which I was like, how many guys does he have to throw at you? Come on, can't we see some of the villains from your own universe? Maybe take a week off from the Earth 2 stuff? But I did love all the stuff that they did with the actual universe of Earth 2. Like every time that they showed it and showed how technologically different it was, I was like, this is really cool. And I loved when they actually went to Earth 2 and met their counterparts and saw just how different it was. And okay, as I said, we are going to talk spoilers, and one thing that slowly began to irritate me throughout the season was that Earth 2 slowly started to resemble Earth 3 more, because Earth 3 in the comics is the evil alternate world. Every single sci-fi thing out there has an evil alternate world where it's good as bad, and it got to that point in which I was like, every single good guy, aside from Barry Allen, is a villain or a jerk over on this universe. It kind of feels like you're doing a bad job of interpreting Earth 2. This really does seem more like Earth 3. And then at the end of the season, when they reveal that this was not actually Jay Garrick, and that the real Jay Garrick did indeed come from another universe that we had not yet seen, and he popped up, and it was, I'll get more into that Jay Garrick later, but basically they go, yeah, okay, so I actually do come from another reality. I was like, oh, so this was Earth 3 all along, and you do come from Earth 2. It kind of bummed me out a little bit that at the end of that you didn't go, oh, well, if you guys are the good universe, then tell you what, you get hierarchy. Let's make you the new Earth 2, and we'll call them Earth 3. I can understand how that would be a weird thing to do, It wouldn't really make any sense, but it would have made me as a comic book fan a little bit happier. But it was still really cool. I was glad to see that. It's like, okay, so that's what you were doing all along. It's like, that was Earth 3, this was Earth 2. All right, that makes sense. Also, I really loved all the characters this season. I think that Grant Gustin is still doing a great job as Barry Allen. He's still nailing it. I really liked Iris a lot more this season. Like, in season 1, she seemed like she was just kind of there to be a character that Barry was pining over, and honestly, it kind of felt a little bit weird to me because I thought they had great chemistry as brother and sister. So whenever he was like, oh, she's my one true love, I was like, ew, that's your sister, man. But in this season, it didn't feel like that. She did actually feel like her own character, and the like brother-sister thing did not feel nearly as thick as it did last season. So she was a lot better. Harrison Wells. Man, I liked him in the previous season when he was the villain. I absolutely loved how he was just this smarmy, just smug, I always say that one of my favorite moments of his character from the first season is when he's all locked up there in the jail cell and it's like, he knows everything's gonna work out for him. He knows it's gonna open up for him. And he was just like talking about hamburgers to him. And it was like, God, you are such a great villain. And I love that this season, he was a good guy, but he was a total jerk. One of my favorite lines from this whole season was when Cisco was talking with him, and when, you know, our Harrison Wells might have been a psycho killer, but you're kind of a dick. It was like, that made me laugh more than anything else this season. Thank you, police car. I'm keeping this in. I don't care. Oh, now the police car stops when I draw attention to it. Great. Okay, sorry. As I said, I like to do the Post Geek Out reactions here on my thinking couch, and that means I'm right next to the window that lets all the noise from the outside world in. Anyway, I'm rambling. So, speaking of Cisco, him and Harrison Wells, I thought had amazing chemistry this season. I thought it was great. Also, speaking of characters who had great chemistry, I thought Jesse and Wally actually had pretty good chemistry. I'll admit, I think that the actor who played Wally was a little bit stiff in the beginning, but as the season went along, I thought he got better. And especially in those moments in which he was with Jesse, I was like, yeah, there's actually a spark here. Like, there's actually something between these guys. And when he kind of really became Wally, like the guy who actually does really look up to the Flash and really does idolize him and wants to be him and wants to go out there and make a difference, when he kind of became that character, I was like, your acting just improved a lot more. This is definitely a character you can pull off more than the angry, I don't need your help, Dad kind of character. This character here, the one who is going to become Kid Flash, that is definitely something that you can pull off. So I look forward to seeing what they do with him in the next season. And also, I really think that they set up how Jesse and Wally are gaining their powers very well. I think they did a great job with that. Like, they had a legitimate reason to separate them from the group, and then they had them specifically in the right place, and it's a place where it's like, yeah, it would make sense for them to be right there in this moment in which they would gain those powers. So it's like, yeah, I actually think they set that up really well. That was, of course, in the episode where Barry goes and visits the Speed Force, and I really like what they're doing with the Speed Force. I like that they aren't afraid to shy away from the fact that it's like, it's not just a science-y thing, it's like a spiritual thing. It's almost like, you know, a afterlife kind of thing. So I really dig that they are not in any way shying away from all the very comic booky things about the Flash. And of course, probably my MVP character of this entire series, Joe West. Holy cow! This entire season might as well just have been called Flash: Joe West gives a long monologue, because every single episode had at one point he had to stop and give a long monologue to pick everyone up or tell them what, you know, their situation was and explain life to them. And every single time it was just a huge gut punch to me. I mean, there were moments in which he would be tearing up and like I would start tearing up. It's like, God, he is killing it. The actor who, he deserves to be mentioned. I'm not just going to call him Joe West. The actor playing him did such a great job. Jesse L. Martin. Jesse L. Martin is killing it as Joe West. And they continue this from the last season, but I really do like seeing Joe West actually fitting kind of the father figure role for Barry Allen. In fact, there was a moment in which you had Joe West, you had Barry's actual dad, and then you had Earth 2 Harrison Wells. Like, all three of them are semi-father figures to this character, and they were just arguing about what to do with him. I was like, it's the three dads show right now. This is great. I love seeing these guys because each of them do actually care about Barry, but for different reasons, and they care about him in different ways. So that was just a great moment. Okay, let's see. Any other positives? Special effects still look amazing. King Shark, holy cow. That guy could only be on screen for a little bit of time, but he looked fantastic. Gorilla City, the fact that they're actually setting up a gorilla city, a city full of super intelligent gorillas. God, that is so cool that they are actually doing that. Yeah, that's about all the stuff throughout this season that was positive to me up until the big spoilery stuff there at the end. So let's get into... I'm going to talk a lot about the final episode, because the final episode was huge. So I'll really go into that kind of on its own. But let's talk a little bit about the negatives. As I mentioned, I'm kind of starting to get a little bit tired of this being a villain of the week type of show. Like, that seems a little bit more old school superhero TV shows. I feel like we are beginning to move past that. You know, looking at shows like the Marvel Netflix shows, I feel like they're starting to realize, like, you know, we need to start treating these like they're not just, you know, Saturday morning cartoons with live action people in there. In fact, most Saturday morning cartoons now, starring superheroes, realize that it just shouldn't be villain of the week stuff. So I feel like this show is kind of still suffering from that. It's still a little bit old school with the fact that it's like every single episode they have to have some different villain just pop up. And that's cool sometimes, but there were moments this season in which like really big stuff was happening and really important stuff was happening. And it's like, no, that entire episode should just be that. Should just be you guys exploring that. And they would stop for like the middle part of the episode to go, oh, here's some new random villain and we have to figure out how to stop him. Like, you know, the episode right after Zoom killed Jay Garrick, they just kind of go back to it. It's like, oh, now we're going to fight King Shark again. And I was like, no, like big stuff just happened, man. You can have an entire episode just dealing with that. Or when Zoom had all of his cronies running around the city, and it was like, okay, but Barry just came back to life. He's faster than ever. This is it. This is the big climax that we've been looking forward to. And it's like, no, we have to have an episode talking about evil Black Canary from Earth 2. It's like, no, you don't really need that. I mean, that would have been a cool thing earlier in the season. Earlier in the season, that would have been great. But at this point that we're at, it's like, no, we are heading towards the finale. We do not need another just random villain to pop up right now. So I hope that in season 2, the episodes kind of like flow from one to the next a little bit more rather than just feeling like individual villain attacks. And also, the big thing to talk about, of course, the giant elephant in the room here is Zoom's identity. How did I feel about that? Because I got a ton of subscribers and I got a lot of attention on this channel because I made a theory video in which I said who I thought Zoom was. And I, of course, like in most of my theory videos, I gave you the sane, rational one, the one that would make the most sense, and then I gave you the crazy one, which is the far out there idea, which is a 1 in a million shot, but I explained how it could possibly make sense. And my sane, rational one is that it was Earth 2 Barry Allen, and I said that it would make sense because we've already seen that many of these characters from Earth 2 are evil versions of good characters from this world, and this entire season has been Barry dealing with his anger that is left over from not getting to really have closure with Zoom. I'm sorry, not Zoom, but Reverse Flash. And that anger has kind of been building inside of him. So if he now saw an evil alternate reality version of himself who caved into that anger, it would be huge. That would be a big thing. It would be kind of like, oh geez, this is what I could become. And the crazy theory that I had was that it would be Thawne, not Eobard Thawne, but you guys are gonna have to forgive me. I am terrible with names. Eddie Thawne, the police officer who died last season because he died and was then sucked into that wormhole. And I said, why did they have him sucked into the wormhole? They had to write that into the script and then spend money to animate it. They would not have done that unless they needed to have it happen for a specific reason. It cost them money to make that happen. And what my logic was is that he does have some kind of a connection to the Speed Force, and in the comics there's this thing called the Black Flash, and the Black Flash is the Grim Reaper of speedsters, and basically he is the thing that appears right before a speedster dies. Only speedsters can see him, and is a force that you cannot outrun. It is faster than anyone else. It is impossible to escape it, even though multiple Flashes have escaped it before because they were part of the storyline, but basically it's the Grim Reaper. And when I said when you look at Zoom's costume, it does not look anything like the Zoom that you see in the comic books. It's black. It is a black Flash costume. So I was like, all right, well, what if Eddie died? Got sucked into this wormhole, his connection to the Speed Force awakened inside of him, and he basically then became this Grim Reaper for Flashes. Yeah, neither one of those were right. And here's the thing, I have no problem with being proven wrong. None at all, none at all. But I kind of like my theories better. I'll go ahead and admit that. I do. I kind of like my theories better, but not just my theories. I read tons of theories online about this, and I kind of like all of them better than this. Yeah, what it turns out is that Zoom actually was Jay Garrick, but Jay Garrick was not actually Jay Garrick. Jay Garrick was a speedster from another alternate reality that he met before this, and he had been keeping him in his cell in a helmet so no one could see him. And his name was actually Hunter Zolomon, and basically he was a serial killer. And he was a serial killer who then got super speed and went around killing people, but then he was like, well, that's no fun, I have to give people hope so I can take it away from them. So then he took this speedster from an alternate reality and decided to take his superhero identity and his name of Jay Garrick, aka The Flash, and made a costume for himself. And then, so he was the good Flash going around. I'm sorry, this sounds crazy, doesn't it? Maybe you guys loved it, maybe you did. I don't want to come in here and like criticize, you know, how you guys felt about it. But this just seemed like I had a theory where it was a zombie speedster. This is crazier than that. This is like 9 things that had to happen in order for this to make sense. And I was like, okay, all right then. And also, like, the moment that was revealed that he was just a serial killer, I was like, that seems kind of basic. Okay, I mean, yeah, he's got a tragic past, okay, but, you know, we have lots of serial killers in these shows. We have lots of just crazy people with powers. It didn't really feel like there was that much special to him then, honestly. I mean, don't get me wrong, one of the best things about Zoom this season is that this show knew how to make super speed frightening. It knew how to make super speed a terrifying things in the wrong hands. Like that episode in which he just beat the crap out of Barry and then went around the whole city like catching all his bullets from the police and telling them it's like, I run this city now. It's like, yeah, super speed is horrifying if the wrong person gets it, and they really captured that. So yeah, a serial killer with super speed, that would be terrifying, but it just kind of seemed like, okay, so your dad was crazy and now you kill people and you have super speed. All right. Like, it seemed to lose some depth there. I feel like Zoom was way more frightening when we didn't know who he was. Also, yeah, the whole mystery of like, okay, how are there 2 Jay Garricks? Like, okay, well, this was just my, like, shadow speedster self. It's like, I went back in time to create a duplicate of myself, and that's the one that I killed. It's like, okay. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, I just read so many theories for this online, and I kind of liked all those theories better. So yeah, it was a little bit of a letdown, and that's why I said that I had to do a spoiler talk on this, because I can't really discuss why this upset me without actually going, no, guys, this is what happened, and I just didn't really care for it. Especially because I kind of liked how he portrayed the actor. I kind of liked how he portrayed Jay Garrick, but when you actually saw him portraying Zoom, it was just kind of like stereotypical villain stuff. It was just kind of like, you know, especially like his relationship with Snow. I always forget her first name, sorry. But Caitlin, got it. His relationship with Caitlin, I thought when he was Jay Garrick, I was like, okay, this is kind of sweet. I kind of like this, and I'm kind of buying it. This is kind of cool. But then when he became a villain, it was just the same thing that I always see whenever the villain becomes obsessed with the female character. It's just, no, you will understand me. And it's like, oh, all right, fine. You had something that was unique, and I feel they turned it into something that I've seen many times before. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And there's another problem that I had with Zoom, which was simply the fact that Season 1, you have an evil speedster who killed one of Barry's parents, and that evil speedster is pretending to be this person that they're not so that they can be a mentor figure to Barry Allen and teach him how to be faster, but they're doing it because they actually are secretly that evil speedster, and that evil speedster needs Barry to get faster, so that's why they're teaching him how to get faster. And Season 2, literally they do the exact same thing. That was my biggest problem with having it turn out to be the Jay Garrick, because it's literally like, it is that close of a thing to season 1. I don't want to see that anymore. It was such a unique thing in season 1, and it really took away from Zoom in season 2 when it was like, yeah, we already saw this with Reverse Flash. I can't think of any other evil speedsters that they could possibly do that with. So I think from here on out, we're safe. I don't think they're going to do it again. But yeah, that was my biggest problem with what they did with Zoom. It's that what you did with Reverse Flash was great, but it was a one-time thing. You can't repeat that exact thing, and they repeated that exact thing. However, I will say this. Going back to that theory I had, in which I said, okay, it's Eddie Thawne, and he gets turned into the Black Flash. Clearly, I was wrong about Eddie Thawne. I will gladly admit that I was totally wrong about that. However, on the Black Flash one, partial credits. I demand partial credit on that one, okay? Because, yes, I was wrong about the idea of Eddie Thawne being turned into the Black Flash. However, at the end of this series, you see those Dementor things come out of the Speed Force and attack him, and he turns into a zombie with the mouthpiece ripped off, so it is totally the Black Flash costume, and he does actually turn into like a skeletal figure like the Black Flash. I was like, okay, I was wrong about Eddie Thawne, but he totally turned into the Black Flash at the end of the season, so it's like, alright, I kind of called one thing. You gotta give me partial credit on that one. Nothing else I said was correct, but partial credit on that one. Occasionally, in my insane ramblings, I do kind of get something right. But yeah, okay, so those were some of my problems with that. I will say, though, that the final showdown between him and Flash, I thought that was a pretty cool thing. In fact, I really love how they kind of pay homage to the Crisis of Infinite Earth storyline by having Barry actually run around so fast that he dissolves into the Speed Force. And I love that they didn't really, like, have him just disappear in a blink of light. It's like, no, you actually see him suffer through this. You see that this is painting him to save everyone. It's like, wow, that's the kind of guy that Barry is. He would go to those limits. It was a great way to kind of have a heroic sacrifice while still having your character there at the end of the episode. They basically found a way to have their cake and eat it too. But let's see, what else? Oh yeah, and then of course the reveal of Jay Garrick. I actually really dug that, and I'm really hoping that they bring Jay Garrick back. I really hope that they continue to have him in here, because it did bother me that Barry finally got his dad back after all this time, and the first thing he does is just go, bye, and he's just like, yeah, I'm just going out into the woods, I'm gonna go camping, just gonna kind of live off the land, be my own man again. It's like, your son who's been working his ass off to get you free from prison, you're not gonna hang around and say hi to him? It's like, I have to figure that there had to have been some kind of a contractual thing. Like, he was contracted to only be in so many episodes a season, something like that. He had other projects he was working on. That's all I can imagine, because that didn't make any sense to me why he just up and left. So I'm hoping that, you know, it did bother me. I mentioned it earlier, but it did bother me that Barry has now lost both of his parent figures one season right after the next. But revealing that Jay Garrick was his father from this alternate reality, I would love it if they kept crossing over, and then this Jay Garrick kind of did become like a father figure to him, and just kind of go, listen, I'm going to teach you some stuff, I'm going to give you the words of advice that your father would have given to you if he was still here with us. And that would be a great way to keep that character around, keep that actor around, and also I think it'd be a great homage to that actor, because as you may know, the actor who plays Barry's dad did play Barry Allen in the original Flash TV series back in 1990, so we now have him actually as a speedster again, back in as a Flash again, and as the original Flash. I think that's actually a great tribute to that actor. So I would love to see him come back and actually be a speedster. So yeah, that was really cool, and also the way that the season ended, that was a hell of a cliffhanger. It really was. They basically did Flashpoint, except they can't have it be exactly Flashpoint, because if you do that, then you would have to have all these other superheroes come in. But basically, they do Flashpoint, which he goes back and he saves his mom, and I really don't know what the next season's gonna be. I don't think all of the next season will be Flashpoint, like set in this alternate reality, and then at the end of the season, he goes back and changes everything back. I think it's going to be like a two-part storyline at the beginning of the next season. Like, the first episode of season 3 is going to be him in this alternate reality, and then at the end of the first episode he goes, oh, this alternate reality is terrible. Oh, what did I do? I have to go back and change everything now. But then he realizes he doesn't have super speed, so he doesn't know how to do that. And then season 3, episode 2 will be him getting his speed back so that he can go back and do that again. But okay, that was it. That was all my thoughts on Flash season 2, at least all the big ones. Let me know in the comments down below how you felt about Flash season 2, how you felt about this season finale. What do you think is going to happen in the next season? And if you want to see more geeky stuff from me every single week, especially a lot more professional stuff, like I said, the Post Geek Out reactions are not professionally put together videos. They are just my honest thoughts. But if you like this and you want to see some more higher quality stuff from me, then make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Also, just for gags, make sure that you click right there to go ahead and watch my season 1 recap of Flash and my thoughts on that. They were very positive and I was very emotional. So I hope that you enjoy that. But thank you guys very much for watching this episode. Make sure that you come back next time. Bye.